Welcome to the second edition of the Attack of the Back. Alright, so first up, some errors and omissions. As it being unscripted, you know, there's going to be a couple errors here and there, you know, and we don't have a research team to research all the facts before we go on. Last time I said Richard Sherman got paid like $100 million, but I said it hyperbolically, in hyperbole. Yeah, it was really 4 years, like $56 million. In comparison, Patrick Peterson, I think he signed for like 5 years, $70 million, I think. Interesting on a side note.
It was a teleprompter error.
Yeah, damn teleprompter. And then apparently I kept saying the Packers won in 2009. I thought I was saying 2010. It's one of those situations where, you know, you hear one thing and you're apparently saying another. So, all right, that's that. Now, we're gonna do something new on the shows. We're gonna have a snack of the show. And today's snack of the shows, or snacks of the show, not snack of the shows, is Wavy Lay's potato chips and Lay's French onion dip. Hopefully Lay's lawyers won't come after us since we're saying nothing but positive things about their products.
Cease and desist.
Yeah, right. And also for the drink we have Abita root beer, because you can't beat an Abita root beer. I don't know if that's their actual slogan, but it should be. Alright. So, start off, this is our free agent frenzy episode. So we will be talking strictly about the free agents, and we'll get back to the normal spiel of, you know, state of blah 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 next week. But this week it's going to be all about free agents, the top 100 free agents as noted on NFL.com. You can see for yourself. And at the time of my creation of this list, or I guess I should say the copying of their list, these were the teams that they were at. So there might be one or two guys that actually signed with a team that I have as unrestricted free agents. So just keep that in mind. I did this like Thursday, so there could have been some changes. Like I know one change was Patrick Robertson, the former first-round corner, the one that he was covering Greg Jennings against the Saints, and Aaron Rodgers looks over and he says, "Really?" And yeah, so yeah, he signed with the Chargers, and at the time he was an unrestricted free agent. So, but I think I edited that, so we'll see how it goes. All right, so we're gonna talk about them 25 at a time, starting with tier 1 through obviously tier 4. And we got a couple extra questions lined up at the end, and hopefully we'll have a good show. Alright, go Packers. And for those of you wondering, yes, I did get a haircut. Alright. Joe, would you mind taking the first, just name off the guy and the team they're with, because, you know, I got the giant line on my screen on that side.
Ndamukong Suh signs with Miami. I really have to talk about this guy?
No, I mean, you just go through and name all 25, and then we'll talk about it.
Alright, we got Darrelle Revis, Jets, back there in New York. Julius Thomas signs with the Jaguars. DeMarco Murray to the Eagles. Chip Kelly is not a racist.
Which we'll get to later.
Mike Iupati signs with the Cardinals. Greg Hardy with the Cowboys. Percy Harvin goes to the Bills.
And Rex Ryan is singing "Reunited and it feels so good."
Byron Maxwell to the Eagles. Chip Kelly's not racist. Torrey Smith to the 49ers. Reunited with his old teammate. Jason Warlitz retired.
To be a door-to-door salesman, yeah. Well, technically it's called being a Jehovah's Witness, but
He has high aspirations.
not knocking the religion, just saying, hey, it's each their own, I guess, but you give up, playing, not just the money, but playing football in the NFL.
I guess
To go to door to door.
I guess you can understand if he thinks it's a higher calling.
Yeah, I guess so.
On to number 11 on the list, Parnell McPhee to the Bears. Jeremy Maclin signs with the Chiefs.
I love that Parnell move. I love it. I'll explain on that later.
Nick Fairley to the Rams. That's
a good
one
pick.
nasty defense.
That's a good pickup for them. That is. Damn, they got like 5 stud defensive linemen on that team
Yep.
now. That is a. Well, Nick Fairley can be a stud, but hey, he came in like 40 pounds lighter.
Brian Balaga stays in Green Bay.
Like he should.
Jared Odrick to the Jags. Terrence Knighton to the Jags. Rodney Hudson signs with the Raiders.
Center.
Derek Morgan signs with the Titans.
He was previously with the Titans. It was just kind of like a Brian Balaga thing.
Brian Arakpo, Titans.
If he can stay healthy, good pickup.
Michael Crabtree, unrestricted free agent. Andre Johnson to the Colts.
That was my pick. When we did our first show, I was like, I think it's Andrew Luck. He chunks the deep ball.
See how that matchup works. Ryan Matthews goes to the Eagles. Trying to stack that backfield up.
Nope. Well, you got 2 injury-prone guys. So hopefully between the 2 of them, they can go a full season.
CJ Spiller to the Saints. Team I don't understand what they're doing.
I don't think anybody does. I don't
think their front office knows.
I don't even think Notre Dame knows what they're doing.
Charles Clay signs with the Bills, and Jabal Shard signs with the Patriots.
Indubitably.
Don't know if I pronounced that right.
Sheared, Shard,
Sheared,
something
Shard.
like that. All right, Joe. Any interesting names to teams on that list?
I'd say number 2, Darrelle Revis goes back to the Jets.
Yeah, because you know what else Darrelle Revis going to the Jets brought? Antonio Cromartie, which he's on this list much later. But, that guy has had a couple of, really... He's been surrounded, Antonio Cromartie, he has been lucky enough to be surrounded by some really good talent on the other side of the defense. He goes from playing a couple years with Revis to playing with Patrick Peterson and Tyrann Mathieu to going back to playing with Revis. Not to mention, he was pretty good on his own in San Diego because that's where he started. I think he played with people like Quentin Jammer and other people. So I'm not saying the dude's not as good as some people may say he is. I'm just saying the dude has been very fortunate in his NFL career to have a very, very good opposing corner playing.
I don't know. I think in this first tier, you got a lot of interesting moves. Sue to Miami. We knew he probably wasn't going to stay in Detroit. Now we'll see who he steps on in that division. Got some high-profile targets.
Yeah, I don't know if he's going to touch Tom Brady, though. Because hell, even if you sneeze on Tom Brady, the refs throw a flag. If he steps on Tom's nuts, Goodell is going to, ban him from the NFL.
See, the thing is, I don't think Sue cares.
Giselle cares. she's gonna be all up in Goodell's office. You think it was bad when Wes Welker dropped that pass in the Super Bowl? God, if Sue steps on Tom's nuts. All right.
I think Julius Thomas is a good pickup for the Jags.
Yeah, because
Got
they already, a lot of people were wanting them to go after Randall Cobb, and I think that would have been a bad move for them, because they've already got 3 or 4 really good budding rookie receivers from last year. You got Marquise Lee, you got Allen Robinson, you got Alan Hearns, an undrafted guy who came out and had a couple of really good games. Really, you don't need to stack that receiver position anymore with veterans that are going to come in expecting to get those touches. the rookies need those touches to get better and progress with their rookie quarterback. I think they had a great draft last year on the offensive side of the ball as far as skill position. The one thing they were missing, a game-changing tight end. Now they got that.
He's definitely a game changer.
They got the left tackle of their future, Luke Jokel. They got him a couple years ago. So if they can just solidify the rest of that offensive line, man. And then if they go out and get like a young running back in the draft this year to pair with Denard,
he stays healthy.
Man, that could be a nasty little offense in Jacksonville.
Yeah. Then I mean, just keep moving down. I mean, DeMarco Murray has a huge breakout season with Dallas.
Finally stays healthy.
And then goes to the Eagles.
Yeah. And a lot of people are like, oh yeah, Dallas' offensive line, best line in the league. Surprisingly, they were not the most efficient run blocking line in the league. That actually belonged to the Eagles. On run plays, they were the most efficient run blocking line in the league last year. So everybody's like, oh well, anybody can run behind the Cowboys line, and he ain't gonna be able to do shit again with the Eagles. Actually, according to Pro Football Focus, the Eagles line was better at the run game last year. So
that's interesting too. If they're better, Sean McCoy had his worst season last year, or maybe not his worst, but drop.
Yeah. Well,
and he's more of a shifty running back.
Mm-hmm.
You get somebody like Murray,
downhill
can run
runner
with some power behind an offensive line like that.
One cut, yeah. Yeah, see, the difference that a lot of people don't realize, and we'll get to this much later in the segment when we talk about the release, when we talk about Stephen A. Smith's. There's no words to describe what Stephen A. Smith tried to conject with Chip Kelly and being racist, but we'll get to talk about that later. But LeSean McCoy was a bad fit for that offense. That offense needs what's called a one-cut runner. For those of you who don't know what that is, it's a running back who, as soon as he gets to the line of scrimmage, he literally, as the name dictates, makes one cut. So he sees a hole, makes the cut, gets through the hole, and 98% of the time, good or for bad, he's going through that hole. Now, sometimes they will, if they see that they can get around or whatever, but most of the time, they will take a guaranteed 3 or 4 positive yards over a possible 18-yard, negative 15-yard range. So that's the whole thing with the one cut back, and that offensive line is made for one cut backs. They run a similar blocking scheme to that of the Cowboys, and I think Murray's going to shock a lot of people, and I honestly don't know if LeSean McCoy how he's going to do in Buffalo, because he is that sideline to sideline runner. He's that guy that wants to, shift and move in the backfield. He doesn't want to take the 3-yard gain and call it a play. He wants to take that 3-yard gain, and I can, as a sports fan, I can admire that, that he wants to take a 3-yard gain and make it into a 20-yard gain. But sometimes you have to just take that 3-yard gain. Sometimes you call a run play and everybody blocks perfectly. If the defense called the right play, you're only going to get 3 to 5 yards. And that says everything happens perfectly. So I saw a statistic somewhere that said that he had 19.2% of LeSean McCoy's carries last year ended in negative yardage of his own volition. Like, there were holes that he could have went through for 3 yards, but he decided to opt out of those, try to look for the bigger play, and it resulted in negative yardage. 19.2%, that is almost a fifth of his touches, because he's always looking for that big play. And somebody has to get that somebody has to drill that into LeSean McCoy's head. Look, you've got the big play ability. That's great. But use it when the opportunity presents itself. Don't go seeking the opportunity. Sometimes in the NFL, you have to take what's there. It's not always the best idea to go out and try to create a new opportunity.
That's why you got an offensive line there to help you create those opportunities. You're not going to do it by yourself all the time.
Exactly.
Even if you are Shady McCoy.
But the Cardinals, man, their offensive line just keeps getting better.
Yeah, it's a big pickup in Ayupati.
Yeah, last year they got Veld here, the left tackle from the Raiders, and this year they get Ayupati. hopefully they can keep Carson Palmer upright for the whole season, and we'll see what happens. Who knows? They might have, been able to beat Carolina and then the Seahawks had they had Carson Palmer.
Yeah.
The Seahawks were not the best team in the NFC last year.
Not to stir the media pot too much by this, but another signing I find a little interesting is Greg Hardy to the Cowboys. Because wasn't it Jerry Jones whose exact words were, when everything was going down last year with all this domestic violence, that domestic violence is intolerable? And then you go sign him.
Well, in Jerry's defense, Greg Hardy was acquitted of all charges. So, and I'm not saying that all domestic violence disputes are, false accusations or whatever. But I mean, once again, speaking in hyperbole, but some of the laws regarding domestic violence, man, if you sneeze on a woman, it's domestic violence. So, now, like I said, I'm not saying it didn't happen. There's a history, granted an undocumented history, but there's a history of football players beating their wives. Not to really make it sound like that, but it's something that's been around in the NFL. It's not just something that's just new and just now happening. Players, not as a whole, but there have always been players that do that. And I think that's just because football is an aggressive sport, and it takes a certain level of aggression to play. Just because you have the talent to play doesn't mean you can play. You have to have the aggression to play too, and that's at just about every spot on the field. You have to have the aggression. Maybe the only one that doesn't have to have the aggression is like a kicker or punter.
You gotta take out the aggression on that ball.
But
I don't know. I mean, I understand that you have to have aggression to play in the league, but
I'm just saying, like, when your life revolves around that aggression, I'm not saying it's right, but I understand how some people, they don't separate the two, work life and home life, and it carries over into the home life. And then she says, something that just sets them off the ringer. Any other day it wouldn't, but this day it did.
I understand where you're coming from, but I mean, just like you brought up what I was going to say, is a separation of your home and work life.
Right.
They're professionals.
You gotta make that separation. Like I said, I'm not saying it's right, but I understand why it happens. But that's the original point. He was acquitted. So, I mean, in some states, just yelling at a woman is literally, I'm not kidding. In some states, yelling at a woman in your house is considered domestic violence. It's considered like...
Oh yeah, especially, I mean, your neighbor hears you guys yelling, and they're going to think the worst.
Exactly. And then the cops get called, and the man is forced to leave the house.
Anyways, back to free agency.
So I'm just saying, I don't know the specifics of the case, but I'm trying to, I don't know why, but for some reason I'm trying to stick up for Jerry Jones here.
I mean, I understand
just
from a football standpoint signing him.
Yeah, and it was a one-year deal that's very incentive-laden. I mean, I don't think there's any guaranteed money. So, if he slips up even the slightest, they can just cut his ass and cut bait. So,
from a standpoint of being a Packers fan, I love the re-signing of Bulaga.
Obviously.
Randall Cobb and Brian Bulaga were the two biggest people to re-sign after that.
Obviously. Yeah, a lot of people. Alright, it's time to switch tapes. So, we will get back to this Bulaga and the rest of Tier 1. And hopefully, eventually, Tier 2. You gotta think, though, as we go through the tiers, there's gonna be less to talk about. It's just the first one's so front-loaded. But, on to part 2.